The reunion of friendship was a very encouraging occasion, and I take my hat off to the four rebels, if you will, who were willing to at least sit down with the other side and listen. We would meet a few more of these type of people in our next and final destination, the Milwaukee metro area, a location very different than small-town America. In fact, I recall the rural-urban discussion we had in our first friendship get-together as we navigated a metropolis of roughly 1,600,000 people, as opposed to only 2,000 in the combined Adams Friendship area. Milwaukee was abuzz over the impending Democratic National Convention scheduled for mere months away, and we'd already planned a blue and red dialogue featuring 2 state representatives and 2 peace groups, as I like to call them. First, the Zeidler Center in Milwaukee, which has been bringing diverse viewpoints together for many years, and the Millennial Action Project, originating out of Madison, Wisconsin, which has tried to bring blue and red together since 2013. Its audacious mission statement, as they put it, is to, quote, activate young leaders to bridge the partisan divide and to transform American politics, unquote. Its founder had traveled back home for this 10th Blue and Red Dialogue, having grown up in Brookfield, then moving on to the UW-Madison and getting a degree in politics. He now resides in Washington, D.C., and some say may actually have an eye on a future senatorial run. His name is Steve Olikara.
We're a national nonpartisan organization activating young leaders in public service leadership who want to be bridge builders in our politics, who want to bridge the partisan divide and strengthen our democracy. And part of our, you can clap that, thank you. And one of the big initiatives we've been doing is our Red and Blue Dialogue series across the state of Wisconsin. And why Wisconsin? It's not just because it's my home state, and by the way, I grew up about 5 minutes down the road here, but it's also because I think Wisconsin is really the tipping point for the country. I think our state right now has been known in the national dialogue for polarization and divisiveness, but I also think that our state can be a leader on being bridge builders. And I think if we can unlock a new model for political bridge building here, it will ripple all across the country.
Millennial Action Project is an organization I founded back in 2013 after the last government shutdown. And that was a time when our political institutions reached a record low level of confidence. And so a few friends and I were looking at the future of American politics, and we're looking at what would be the most important forces shaping the future of our democracy. One, we believed, is the worsening polarization, which today is at the worst level since the Civil War. And the second is the rise of the millennial generation, a whole new generation of leaders who are entering public service leadership. And the question becomes, how's this new generation going to govern our country? Are we going to go down the path of demonization, polarization, and division? Or will we choose the path of listening and empathy and understanding? That's really what this is all about. And so we've activated the nation's largest nonpartisan network of millennial elected officials who are committed to political bridge building.
And so that's why we've been doing these dialogues all across the state for the past 2 years. And we started this last year in Milwaukee. We're at the Pabst Brewery in downtown Milwaukee. And we were talking about higher education issues. We've continued the dialogue talking about criminal justice reform, media disinformation. And then we started hearing interest from state lawmakers across the state who wanted to host it in their home districts. So we started going to Sheboygan and Green Bay and many other cities. And the coolest thing about those dialogues is not only that we had a bipartisan group of state lawmakers joining us to model the type of leadership that we want to see, but we also saw constituents coming together across lines of political difference. In many cases, it was the first time they were really in a room at a political event with people from the other party.
Today we just hosted our 10th Red and Blue Dialogue in the state of Wisconsin. We've been traveling all across the state, challenging the notion that we're too divided to talk to each other, challenging the notion that we can't build bold, exciting ideas that have support from across the aisle. And tonight we were talking about energy and the environment. And we talked about how our local chapter here spearheaded a solution that would create electric vehicle charging stations all across the state. That was led by our Republican co-chair. So those are the types of things we're seeing, and we see these solutions all across the country. We hosted dialogues on criminal justice reform. You're seeing people from not just the moderate middle, but really the populist left and the populist right. So it's about finding these exciting win-win opportunities, and we're uncovering that here in our dialogues.
The whole format with today is that we're going to have a quick panel discussion up here to frame the issue of energy and the environment, hear what they've been working on in the state capitol, what they've been hearing from constituents, and then we're going to move into a facilitated dialogue at the tables that you're sitting at, and then we'll partner with the Zeidler Center for Public Service and Katherine, just wave your hand real fast. She has brought her team of facilitators, and they've been working with us with a bunch of the dialogues, and it's just been a real treat to work with you guys, so thank you.
So how do you respond to people that say that civility or compromise are bad words?
Yeah, I understand where they're coming from, because historically civility can be used to silence voices, and there's this notion of let's bring everyone together, and anyone who has a radical, out of mainstream view, we don't really want to hear from you. And similarly with compromise, sometimes you see people in the establishment middle who are compromising their integrity, compromising their principles to serve the incumbent economic interests, to serve the status quo. So I understand where those concerns are coming from, and I actually agree with them to some degree. And that's why it's so important that our mission, our work, articulates our vision for political bridge building.
All right, are we ready to jump into this?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm Dr. Katherine Wilson. I'm the director of the Zeidler Center. In a couple months, we'll be the Zeidler Group. Our mission is to foster civil dialogue and invite trust in the midst of differences. And so we love partnering with Millennial Action Project to host dialogues and facilitate dialogues and train facilitators. That's what we do and what we love. Basically, you're here to speak for your own opinion, your own story. You don't have to speak for your whole political party. Your words and what you've experienced are the most powerful thing that you can share.
The bipartisan spirit at this event reminded me how a buddy asked if a charismatic leader could actually unify Americans into a large centrist party. Though not asking the question here, I remember how Craig Gilbert from the Journal right up the road responded during an earlier interview.
I'm dubious about that for a couple of reasons. One, there's so many structural impediments to a third party just by the way the rules, the parties are organized, their status, the way states, their political rules and processes in states. That's one reason. And the other problem is when you look at voters, quote, independent centrist voters, it's not like they all agree internally. For one problem, they're less involved, they're less engaged. They tend to be, it's the partisan people that are most active and are most participatory, and that's why we have the differences we have in the parties. But also, those voters in the middle, they might be agreeing with Democrats on some issues and Republicans on other issues. They're not a monolith, and so it's going to be hard for that segment of the electorate to produce one candidate that they can get behind. So I think I'm not particularly confident that's going to happen anytime soon.